I just want to point out some stuff here. In the previous recording that I said, in the requirements.txt file, I mentioned that we didn't pin the versions. This is not correct. It should not be the case when we are productionalizing things, but we should pin down versions. When you see this later on, you'll see the official, like the main branch having pin down versions. We're still going to commit and make a PR on this. Until we do, expect that this will be found in the requirements file. We just put versions right here. Okay, how do we get these versions? You get them by the following. You see any library that you installed, for example, the pip show pandas, or maybe litlm. Let's take litlm as an example. Here you can see the .venv, that's the version environment we created. And acquires means the Python libraries that litlm needs to function. I didn't write all of these in this file. I just wrote litlm, and when I pip installed litlm, it implicitly installed all of these libraries as well. Required by Ansari Backend. This means that Ansari Backend here, I guess it means that the users themselves. We ourselves installed this library by writing pip install litlm. You can get the version, that's what I want to talk about here. You can get the version from this part, and then you can write equal and then this version. Okay, but now when you go back to this file, you'll see me pinning down everything. I'm just saying, just for you to know, that's the way that you get them. Or when you install anything, for example, any library, like this, but let's make it a dry run. A dry run means that it wouldn't actually install. It will just give the logs that it will give, assuming that it installed. It will run, it will give us this, and then it will say would install, not installed, no, would install, because we are running dry run argument. So it would install this library because this library is a dependent of, like var name depends on this, and then to install var name and this, we can take this version and put equal and then paste here. That's the way we can pin down versions. This is something for you to know, and you can see that we change the files to be requirements.in instead of text. You can see this link to know why, but the summary of the situation is that whenever you add libraries, you add it here, sorted. If something, for example, library called data, it will be between B and D, so you'll add it here, and then you'll add it spin from the commands that I showed you in the terminal, and then you will run this command, pip-compile requirements.in output file requirements.txt. What does this command do? It basically compiles the content of this file, okay, into the requirements.txt file. How does it compile it? So the requirements.txt file, you see it got changed majorly. So it now not only contains the libraries that I installed here directly, it contains the implicit libraries that these libraries installed as well. Let me explain. Again, in the requirements.in file, these libraries are called direct dependencies. A direct dependency is something that we pip install directly, as I've written here, okay? But second degree or more than that libraries, these are implicit libraries installed by these. Again, another example is pandas. If you see pandas, you will see it requires numpy and all of that. But numpy isn't shown here because I didn't install numpy myself. But if I go back to requirements.txt here, you can see numpy written here, okay, via pandas. So this is automatically created by the command pip-compile that I showed you above. Okay, so you do this step each time. Even if you decide to later remove this library, after you remove this, you will save this file, and then you run this command, which will alter this file, the text file. And then the server will hopefully read from this text file, and this pin down version will be more, since it's more explicit, it will lessen the possibility of weird surprises coming up when setting up the environment in the live version. And this is the part that I wanted to discuss about the requirements.txt file. This is the third time I'm discussing this. Hopefully the recording doesn't break on me. Now I want to show what? 1 second. Recording was 11:50, I think. There is another thing I want to talk about over here. That is the 1 second. The Python app YAML file, the GitHub Actions that I talked about. It isn't actually CI/CD. There's no D part. It doesn't deploy. Okay, so what it does is just install Python dependencies, run tests, and lint. It was Ruff, if you remember that. And so if you see here, the last step is this: run tests using pytest. I explained the tests files before. So that's it basically. It doesn't cover the part where this code deploys to Heroku server. Okay, so this is something that you just need to keep in mind. And another thing that's also cool is that if you see here any commits in GitHub, Let's take a false commit initially. The internet here is amazing. For example, this commit that I tried to make and it failed spectacularly. You will see all of these. For anyone who doesn't know GitHub Actions, these are based on what we initialized here. We say here the jobs. Each job that we say here will be written there in the steps part of the job. If we have a checkout step, checkout repository code, then you will see it over here. This will translate to what's being done here. Install UV, run these commands to install them, which is just this command, and you will see its output here, install UV. Okay, run pip install UV. So this is the command, and it even captured the comment that we wrote here. It's giving us what's happening. This is cool for logging. This is done for the rest. So until you have lint with Ruff, that here as well, and then test with pytest, the last one, it will be here as well. Okay, the rest are regarding the other logs regarding GitHub. One thing just to take care of in case you run with this issue again is that in this step, if you scroll down at the end, or if you refresh the page, you'll be redirected to this part. If you push any commits here and you see it failed on these parts, then that's okay. Because normally these fail because of a connection error between OpenAI and the server of GitHub Actions, if I recall correctly. That's why we have an assertion here with 500 instead of 200, okay? In stuff related to the commands that are related to the Ansari agent, which uses OpenAI models, okay? So if you see issues like this, then this is expected. But if you see any other types of issues here, then no, then you need to fix that yourself, okay? And if you remember when I said Ruff enforces guidelines like the maximum character length in a line, if you exceed that, you will see this issue. So if we push the code while it is like this, you'll see an error occurring here in lint with Ruff part, in this part. This didn't do anything because it runs the check command correctly, but normally you see an issue here stating where the issue is. Okay, it will state it something like this. It will say that line too long, and it will give you the position where the issue happens. So it will tell you 19, it will tell you the file name, and then it will tell you 19, and then it will tell you the part where the problem occurred, which was colon 128. So you'll see something like 19 colon and then 128. This is how you can read the errors if they come up. Okay, that is something for you as well. 1 second. Okay, in this part, I think that's all. You see also here as well colors, beautiful colors, where okay, these are beautiful errors, we don't want that. These are done using the logging module that we have. I'll explain that later, but essentially GitHub Actions has specific variables, environment variables related to it that we could use for our advantage. So for example, when I'm here defining my logger in the logger file, you'll see that I'm adding configurations for it, and one of them is this environment, and this is the function to get the environment variables. And I'm saying if there is an environment variable called GitHub Actions, then make colorize true. Okay, this is the thing. Here, and only when it's running here, there will be an environment variable called GitHub Actions, and this will return true. So it will be colorized, so it will colorize over here. So this is something that you can use to your advantage. Another thing related to GitHub Actions is the test server. So if I Control-Shift-F on test server over here, you will see that I added in one of the origins that is allowed to go through our code is test server. Okay, because this is done when we are deploying to GitHub. So to make sure the CI/CD of GitHub Actions is allowed, which is again not a CI/CD, but you get the point. So these things you can keep in consideration if you wish to adjust stuff that relates to GitHub Actions. Yeah, and now I'm finished with this part. I'm sorry if I'm talking a little bit too fast. It's because it's like can't remember this. Did too many takes for this part, so I just want to get it over with before I go to the main logic that we have. Overview of those. Yeah, I think now we can go to the source files, which is the main logic that we have. 1 second. Okay, let me go to Ansari logger file first. I'm sorry if you're seeing me look away. Like when I'm looking in this direction, I'm just looking at the second monitor that I have to make sure I'm tracing what I'm doing in the video for later editing. Let us go to logger. Sorry, logger. So I was just in this file a few seconds ago. This does nothing special. It just uses Loguru library instead of the standard logging, and you can see why I made this decision here in this link. Okay, and this is for documentation, and it's pretty simple syntax. I don't need to explain it. You can read the parameters and their usage here. There are colorings available. So the coloring you just saw in GitHub Actions, you can also see that in the terminal as well if we run the server here. Okay, in the logs. So that's something that is useful. Another thing that I just thought of right now that I didn't plan to say is that I think this is present in Loguru but not in the standard logging, that you can log exception, like not just an error. Like normally when you have a try except, here, except exception as e, you will normally log error, and you say your details, and then you put the error or the function that gets the traceback of the error, and then you print that here. But there is a cool way to do this, is that you can just if you use exception, then you don't have to say the traceback. You can just say the final string of the final error that you caught. Okay, and if you pass this instead in exception, then this will automatically, after this string, it will print a new line and then print out the traceback of how this error was caught, like all of the traceback of the functions which led to this issue, and it stores extra metadata that helps in debugging. It's really cool. So that's also something that you could use. We didn't use that yet in the code, but something that I just remembered related to the library of Loguru that I really. So this is all with the Loguru library, and now with the config logic. The config logic will take a bit of time, so I think I'll take a small break first.